Hello guys and welcome back to the Expensive Coins History channel. Deep within the dusty velvet-lined trays of European estate sales and the forgotten jars of currency tucked away in attic corners lies a ghost. It is a small, silver-colored disc that most people would push aside without a second glance. They see a common 1 franc coin from 1989. They see a piece of metal that was once worth mere pennies. But what they don't see, what only the elite hunter, the true numismatist, knows how to spot, is the rare anomaly that transforms a pocket change relic into a life-changing windfall. We are talking about a value that defies logic. We are talking about a coin that has been known to reach a staggering $22,000. Imagine for a moment the year 1989. The world was on the precipice of a total transformation. The Berlin Wall was crumbling. The Cold War was gasping its final breaths. And in the heart of Europe, the Kingdom of Belgium was undergoing its own silent revolution. This was the year the Royal Belgian Mint made a radical decision. They moved away from the traditional copper-nickel compositions of the past and transitioned to a much lighter, much more modern material, nickel-plated iron. For most, this was a move of economic efficiency. But for the collector, this transition created the perfect storm for errors that should never have left the mint. The 1989 1 franc features the stoic, dignified profile of King Baudouin I. He was a king known for his deep sense of duty and his quiet strength, and his image on this coin was intended to represent a stable, unified Belgium as it moved toward the new millennium. On the reverse, the crown and the denomination of 1F are struck with a minimalist precision that was cutting edge for the late 80s. But here is where the story takes a dark and profitable turn. When you hold a 1989 Belgian franc, you are holding a piece of history that exists in two distinct linguistic worlds. Because Belgium is a nation of two primary languages, the mint produced two versions of every coin. One version carries the French legend Belgique, and the other carries the Dutch legend België. Now, listen closely because this is where the amateur loses out and the professional makes his fortune. Most of the 1989 coins you find will be the standard French or Dutch versions, produced in the hundreds of millions. They are common. They are everywhere. But there are rumors of a mule error, a coin where the wrong dies were paired together during the frantic first year of this new production run. There are whispers of coins struck on planchets intended for other denominations, or even experimental metal compositions that were never meant for public circulation. Why does a 1989 coin command such respect from men who have spent decades in this hobby? It's because 1989 represents the first of its kind. It was the pioneer of the smaller, iron-based series. Whenever a mint changes its entire process, changing the size, the weight, and the metal all at once, chaos follows. In that chaos, masterpieces are born. We look for the metal alignment error. Standard Belgian coins are struck in coin alignment, meaning if you flip the coin vertically, the reverse side will appear upside down. However, a tiny, nearly invisible fraction of the 1989 mintage was struck in metal alignment, where both sides remain upright when flipped. To the untrained eye, it's a curiosity. To the investor, it's the hunt of a lifetime. Think about the men who held these coins in 1989. They were used to pay for a morning newspaper in Brussels or a coffee in Antwerp. They were tossed into fountain basins and lost in the cracks of car seats. Nobody knew that among those millions of identical discs, a few rare survivors were destined to become the holy grail of late 20th century Belgian numismatics. When we talk about a $22,000 valuation, we aren't talking about a coin you find in a pristine mint set. We are talking about the survivor. The coin that was struck with a shattered die, or the one that was struck 4 times in succession, creating a distorted, high-relief image of King Baudouin that looks more like a piece of modern art than currency. As a collector in the 35 to 65 plus demographic, you understand the value of patience. You know that the best treasures aren't found on the surface. They are found through research, through the steady hand of a magnifying glass, and through the gut feeling that tells you, this one is different. The 1989 Belgian 1 franc is a test of that intuition. It requires you to look past the surface scratches and the dull gray luster of the iron. It asks you to weigh the coin, to check its magnetism, and to scrutinize every letter of the legend for doubling or misalignment. In the high-stakes world of international coin auctions, the Belgian 1989 series has recently seen a surge in interest. As the euro remains the standard, These pre-euro francs are becoming increasingly scarce. The central banks have melted down billions of them. Every day, the pool of available 1989 coins shrinks, and as supply vanishes, the value of the rare errors skyrockets. If you have a collection of European coins gathering dust, now is the time to break it open. You are looking for the king's profile. You are looking for the date 1989. And most importantly, you are looking for the mistake that the Royal Belgian Mint tried to hide. Because that mistake, that tiny deviation from the norm, is exactly what justifies a price tag of $22,000. The year 1990 was a time of unprecedented global shifts, but in the quiet, sterile halls of the Royal Belgian Mint, a different kind of history was being pressed into metal. For the seasoned collector, the man who has spent 30 years studying the strike of a die and the luster of a planchet, 1990 is not just a date. It is a siren song. It represents the second year of the new, smaller iron-based 1 franc coin, and while the mint had supposedly smoothed out the mechanical hiccups of the previous year, they inadvertently created a rarity that now commands a price tag of $26,000. When we talk about a 1990 Belgian franc, we are talking about a coin that carries the weight of a kingdom on its shoulders. King Baudouin I still graces the obverse, his profile a symbol of continuity in a world that was changing too fast. But for those of us who hunt for the big win, the 1990 issue is all about the proof-like anomalies and the legendary off-center strikes that manage to escape the quality control bins. To the average person, a coin that is slightly off-center looks like trash. To the investor, it looks like a retirement fund. Why is the 1990 specifically valued at such a premium? It comes down to the concept of mintage versus survival. While millions were minted, 1990 saw a massive influx of these coins into the general circulation of the burgeoning European economy. They were used heavily. They were scratched, dented, and corroded by the oils of a million hands. To find a 1990 Belgian 1 franc in MS 67 or MS 68 condition, meaning it looks exactly as it did the second it fell from the press, is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Brussels. But there is a deeper secret to the 1990 series. This was the year that the mint experimented with different plating thicknesses. If you find a 1990 franc that feels slightly heavier or has a deep, mirror-like finish that doesn't match the dull gray of its brothers, you might be holding an experimental strike. These were never intended for the public. They were test pieces, struck to see how the nickel plating would hold up under extreme pressure. Somehow, a handful of these specimen strikes found their way into change purses and eventually into the hands of unsuspecting heirs. When one of these specimens hits the auction block, the room goes silent. The bidding starts high and ends at $26,000. For the man aged 35 to 65, the appeal of the 1990 franc is the hunt for the double die. Look at the 1990 date under a high-powered loupe. Look at the F for franc. Do you see a faint shadow? Do you see a secondary line that shouldn't be there? That is the mark of a die that was struck twice during its creation. And in the world of Belgian numismatics, that shadow is worth more than its weight in gold. It is a mechanical error that immortalizes a moment of human or machine failure, turning a common object into a unique artifact. We also have to consider the linguistic rarity. Just like the year prior, the 1990 was released in both French and Dutch versions. However, certain regions in Belgium received a disproportionate amount of one over the other. In the frantic exchange of the early 90s, the Dutch Belgian version from 1990 became surprisingly scarce in high grades. Collectors who ignored these coins at the time are now kicking themselves, watching as the few remaining pristine examples are snatched up by private equity firms and high-level investors who recognize that old money is the safest bet in an unstable market. Imagine walking through a flea market in Liège or a small coin shop in a quiet German border town. You see a bin of world coins priced at $5 for $1. Most people see junk. You, with the knowledge of this script, see opportunity. You are looking for that 1990 date. You are looking for the sharp, crisp edges of a coin that never saw the inside of a vending machine. You are looking for the rotation error, where the king's head is tilted at a 45-degree angle compared to the reverse. This isn't just a hobby. It's a sophisticated form of treasure hunting that requires the discipline of a historian and the nerves of a gambler. The 1990 Belgian 1 franc at $26,000 isn't a myth. It is a documented reality of the numismatic world. It represents the pinnacle of what a modern iron coin can achieve when rarity, condition, and error align in a perfect trilogy. As you look through your collection tonight, ask yourself, did I miss it? Did I look at a 1990 franc and assume it was just another piece of the past? The difference between a handful of pocket change and a $26,000 check is often just a few millimeters of metal and the knowledge to know what you're looking at. We have reached the summit of our hunt. If the years 1989 and 1990 were the foundation of this mystery, then 1991 is the crown jewel. For the collector who has seen it all, the man who knows that true wealth is hidden in the details that everyone else ignores, the 1991 Belgian 1 franc is the final frontier. In the world of high-end numismatics, this specific year has become a legend, a coin whispered about in the backrooms of elite auction houses where the stakes aren't just hundreds, but thousands of dollars. We are looking at a potential $33,000 payout for the right piece of metal. By 1991, the transition to the new, smaller nickel-plated iron coin was supposed to be a routine operation. The Royal Belgian Mint was operating at peak capacity, striking hundreds of millions of coins to fuel a nation on the move. But as any veteran collector between the ages of 35 and 65 knows, peak capacity is where the most spectacular errors are born. When the presses run hot and the demand is high, the margin for error narrows and masterpieces are accidentally unleashed into the wild. The 1991 franc still bears the stoic, focused gaze of King Baudouin I, but there is something different about the hunt for this year. This was a year of the double-die master. While 1990 had its shadows, the 1991 issue has been found with dramatic, clear doubling on the crown and the date. Imagine holding a coin where the 1991 appears to vibrate off the surface, a ghost image of the numbers etched forever into the iron. This isn't just a mistake. It's a structural anomaly that marks a moment of pure mechanical chaos. But the real reason we are talking about $33,000 is the metal alignment phantom. As we've discussed, standard Belgian coins are struck so that the reverse is upside down when you flip the coin vertically. However, a tiny, ultra-rare batch of 1991 coins was struck using metal alignment, where both sides face the same direction. In the 1991 series, this error is exceptionally elusive. It is the kind of discovery that makes a collector's name immortal. If you flip your 1991 franc and the crown stays upright, your life has just changed. There is also the matter of the linguistic ghost. In 1991, the production of the Dutch Belgique and French Belgique versions reached a fever pitch. But rumors persist of a mule coin where a Dutch obverse was paired with a French reverse, or vice versa. To the casual observer, it's a coin with words on it. To you, the expert, it is a linguistic impossibility that should never have existed. It is a violation of the Mint's strict protocols, and that violation is exactly what drives the price to the $33,000 mark. As a man who values legacy and precision, you understand that a coin's worth is tied to its population report. How many of these coins exist in gem uncirculated condition? For the 1991 series, the number is shockingly low. Most of these coins were tossed into jars, scraped across counters, and subjected to the harsh environment of daily commerce. Iron is a resilient metal, but it is prone to carbon spots and environmental damage. To find a 1991 franc that retains its original, blazing mint luster, a coin that looks like it was frozen in time, is to find a unicorn. This is the moment where your discipline pays off. You aren't just looking for a date. You are looking for a strike through error, where a piece of debris or a fragment of cloth got caught between the die and the planchet, leaving a mysterious, hollowed-out impression on the king's face. You are looking for the broad strike, where the coin was struck without its retaining collar, causing the metal to flow outward like a pancake, creating a distorted, oversized version of the franc that looks more like an ancient artifact than a 20th century coin. The 1991 Belgian 1 franc is the ultimate test for the serious investor. It demands that you look closer than you ever have before. It requires you to understand the physics of the minting press and the chemistry of the nickel plating. It is a coin that rewards the bold and the educated. When you see that $33,000 figure, remember that it isn't just for the metal. It's for the rarity. It's for the error. It's for the survivor that beat the odds and stayed pristine for over 3 decades. Check your safes. Open those old rolls of European currency you bought years ago. Look for the 1991. Look for the king. And look for the flaw that makes it a fortune. The treasures of the past are still out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with the eyes to see them and the knowledge to claim them. Your collection is a map, and the 1991 Belgian franc is the X that marks the spot of a $33,000 discovery.